The most important thing that happened to AI this year wasn't GPT-5. It wasn't Gemini. It wasn't any of that. It was a paper about brain cells that most AI engineers have never read.
And probably wouldn't think to.
Okay, so here's what we're actually talking about. There's this cell type in the brain, astrocytes. And for like 100 years, neuroscience basically treated them as support staff. Like the neurons do the thinking, the astrocytes just kind of hang around and take care of them.
Which, for the record, is wildly wrong.
Wildly wrong, yes. So, starting maybe 5, 6 years ago, researchers start realizing these cells aren't passive at all. They're doing something. They're modulating signals, they're adjusting how synapses fire, I mean, they're computing.
And the thing is, the architecture of how they compute it looks familiar.
It looks really familiar if you work in machine learning.
Right. And the engineers building transformers have no idea.
No idea. That's the whole thing.
So let's get into the mechanism, because I think this is where it gets genuinely surprising. An astrocyte, one astrocyte, makes contact with something like 100,000 synapses.
Wait, one cell?
One cell. It's not computing locally the way a neuron does. It's more like a global modulator. It's listening to a huge territory of neural activity and then adjusting the gain on all of it simultaneously.
So it's like ambient regulation? It's setting a kind of background threshold?
Yeah, and here's where it gets weird. It's doing this through calcium waves, these slow spreading waves of calcium ions that propagate through the astrocyte network. And they're not fast like electrical signals. They're operating on a totally different timescale. A slower timescale. Much slower. Which means the brain is running two completely different computational loops at the same time. You've got the fast, precise token by token stuff the neurons are doing, and then this slow context setting layer on top. Exactly. And that slow layer is doing something that looks a lot like, and I want to be careful here because the analogy isn't perfect, but it looks a lot like what attention mechanisms do in Transformers.
Okay, that's the part where I had to put my phone down when I read this. Right? Because Transformers, the whole architecture that basically runs modern AI, the attention mechanism is specifically about dynamically weighting what context matters. Like, not treating all information equally, but seeing, in this moment, these parts of the input are relevant. Which is exactly what the astrocyte calcium waves appear to be doing for neural circuits. And nobody planned this. Nobody planned it. The transformer attention mechanism was derived from statistical principles about sequence modeling. The astrocyte calcium dynamics evolved over, we're talking hundreds of millions of years. And they landed in the same place. Different substrate, different timescale, different mechanism, same functional structure. That's the convergence. Okay, but here's what I keep coming back to. If the brain needs both layers, the fast, precise layer and the slow contextual layer, do our AI systems need that too?
So this is the question that some people are starting to ask. Yeah, because right now transformers are doing everything in one forward pass. You put in a prompt, you get out tokens, and the attention is computed fresh every single time. There's no persistent slow wave layer that's like shaping the computational landscape before the fast processing even starts. It's all fast. There's no slow. There's no slow. And the neurobiology would suggest that might be not wrong exactly, but incomplete. Like we might be missing a whole tier of processing that biological intelligence relies on.
Which is a little humbling when you think about how confident we've been that we've basically figured out the shape of intelligence.
Yeah, we built something impressive and then assumed we found the only way.
So, what does this actually mean going forward? Like, is anyone building this?
A few labs are starting to experiment with what people are calling slow-fast architectures, basically trying to add a persistent context layer that operates on a different timescale than the main model. It's early. It's not in any production system that I know of. But if it works, you potentially get something that handles context the way biological brains do. Not just remembering what was said, but like the system having a running disposition about what's relevant.
carrying something forward that isn't just memory, but is more like state, mood almost. I mean, yeah, actually, mood is not a bad word for it, which is either exciting or terrifying, depending on your priors. Both, I think. Both. I'm Nova. And I'm Alex. And this is Code and Cosmos.